What's up everyone and welcome back to the channel. In our first news, Dan Hooker recently shared his thoughts on Mateusz Gamrot's loss to Charles Oliveira at UFC Rio. Hooker, who previously fought and defeated Gamrot, believes the Polish fighter made one crucial mistake that may have affected his performance that night. Speaking in an interview with Sky Sports, Hooker pointed out that Gamrot seemed to burn unnecessary energy before the fight even began. According to Hooker, Gamrot sprinted to the octagon during his walkout, and that burst of energy might have come back to haunt him once the fight started. He looked like he was just blowing after that sprint out to the cage, Hooker explained. 5 minutes in, and he already looked like he was huffing and puffing, turning pink, and just struggling to catch his breath. Hooker added that while fighters often try to hype themselves up before stepping into the cage, expending too much energy in the moments leading up to the opening bell can be costly, especially against someone as dangerous as Charles Oliveira. Gamrot ended up losing the fight via second-round submission, marking the first time in his professional career that he had been finished. Hooker noted that it wasn't just about the skill gap, but also about energy management. Once you start the fight fatigued, every movement becomes heavier and every reaction slower. Against a submission specialist like Oliveira, even a slight hesitation can lead to disaster. Hooker also acknowledged Oliveira's decision to take the fight just 3.5 months after suffering a devastating knockout loss, calling it a bold move. It was a huge gamble for Charles, Hooker said. Coming back so soon after that kind of knockout is risky, but it paid off for him in a big way. Overall, Hooker's assessment painted a clear picture of how small decisions, like a pre-fight sprint, can have major consequences inside the octagon, especially when facing a high-pressure opponent like Oliveira. Moving on to another news, Khamzat has revealed whose corner he would be in if a fight between Arman and Ilia ever took place. Having trained with both fighters at different points in his career, Khamzat has shared respect and friendship with each of them. However, during a recent interview with Alan Bagbad, he didn't hesitate when asked about this potential matchup. Khamzat made it clear that if Arman were to ask him to be in his corner, he wouldn't be able to turn him down. The two have spent time training together and have built a strong bond over the years, something that clearly influences Khamzat's decision. While he also respects Ilia's skills and accomplishments, his loyalty to Arman seems unshakable. Khamzat expressed that helping a close friend in a fight is not just about strategy, but about mutual trust and brotherhood. Though the matchup between Arman and Ilia remains hypothetical, Khamzat's statement gives fans an interesting glimpse into his personal connections within the sport. For him, friendship and loyalty appear to outweigh competitive alliances, making it clear that if this fight ever materializes, Khamzat would proudly stand in Arman's corner. Moving on to another news, Daniel Cormier and Chael Sonnen recently discussed a potential matchup between Alex Pereira and Khamzat, and both agreed that Pereira might simply be too big for the undefeated contender to handle. During the latest episode of their show Good Guy, Bad Guy, the two former fighters broke down the hypothetical clash and shared their honest opinions on how such a fight could play out. Sonnen began by pointing out that Pereira's sheer size and physical strength could be the deciding factor if the two ever stepped into the octagon together. Well, geez, Pereira is so big, Sonnen said. I do think that size matters at a certain point. Khamzat would be a problem in certain positions, especially early on, but ultimately Pereira's size and power make him a nightmare to deal with. Even if he got taken down once or twice, that's a big man to drag to the canvas for 25 straight minutes. Cormier agreed with Sonnen's assessment, explaining that the size difference between Pereira and Khamzat is far greater than most fans realize. When you start talking about a guy who fights at 185 but walks around at 210, compared to someone like Pereira who fights at 205 and probably weighs 235 on fight night, that's a massive gap, Cormier said. It might not matter much when you move from 170 to 185, but when you start jumping 20 pounds or more, that's where it really starts to show. Cormier went on to say that while Khamzat's wrestling and relentless pressure could give anyone trouble, including Pereira, the challenge of holding down such a large and strong opponent would be exhausting. Khamzat's great at getting guys down and smothering them, Cormier said, but Pereira's not just a big guy, he's athletic, powerful, and knows how to use his frame. Even if he gets taken down, he's got the size and strength to push back up, and that takes a toll on the wrestler. Sonnen echoed the sentiment, saying that Pereira's striking power would also make Khamzat hesitant to engage recklessly. It's not just about the weight, Sonnen said. Pereira hits like a truck. If Khamzat gets clipped early, it could change the whole fight. You can't just shoot from a mile away against someone with that kind of knockout power. In the end, both agreed that while Khamzat remains one of the most dangerous fighters in the sport, Pereira's combination of size, strength, and striking might simply be too much for him right now. Size has to matter at some point, Cormier concluded. You can't ignore physics. A 205-pound guy who rehydrates to 235 is not the same as a 185-pounder walking around at 200. At some point, the size, the weight, and the power difference are going to make a real impact. Sonnen wrapped it up by saying he couldn't confidently pick a winner, but admitted the matchup would be one of the most fascinating stylistic clashes in modern UFC history. Moving on to another news, Bisping has shared his prediction for the highly anticipated main event between RDR and Brendan Allen, set to take place place this Saturday night at UFC Vancouver. Speaking on his Believe You Me podcast, Bisping broke down the matchup in detail and gave his thoughts on who he believes will come out on top. The former UFC middleweight champion expressed strong confidence in RDR's abilities, calling him the biggest threat to Khamzat in the 185-pound division. "I think RDR gets the win," Bisping said. "No offense to Brendan, he's a great fighter and very skilled, but I believe RDR is going to win this fight. I think he beats Brendan Allen and probably does it by submission." According to Bisping, RDR's ground game and grappling IQ make him an incredibly difficult opponent for anyone in the division. He explained that RDR's comfort on the mat is what sets him apart. If RDR gets taken down, he's got the guard, the sweeps, and the jiu-jitsu to reverse positions. He probably welcomes getting taken down because of how dangerous he is off his back, Bisping said. Bisping went on to explain that if RDR wins, it could set up a fascinating matchup with Khamzat. If he gets that next shot, it'll be almost like fate for Khamzat, because out of everyone at 185, RDR is the guy with the most stylistic problems for him, he added. He emphasized that RDR's submission threat and composure could make him the toughest stylistic puzzle in the division. The former champion also discussed the rest of the division and where everyone else stands. "You don't think it would have been fluffy if he was healthy?" Bisping asked his co-hosts, referring to another potential contender. "Without him, RDR stands out as the biggest problem. Darius isn't getting a title shot anytime soon, and Marvin, yeah, he'd be a problem too. Not easy to beat. The hand speed last time against Baralho was ridiculous," he noted, giving props to several middleweights making moves up the ranks. Bisping also touched on Sean Strickland, who's been calling out Khamzat for a fight. "Strickland's been talking and calling for a fight with Khamzat," Bisping said with a laugh, "but that's not happening anytime soon. We're not going to see that next." He then circled back to RDR, doubling down on his prediction. "If RDR is victorious this weekend, I've got him all the way. I think it's going to be 5 rounds, and somewhere in those 25 minutes, RDR catches Brendan Allen in a submission. Maybe a choke, maybe an armbar, but I think that's how it ends," he said confidently. With RDR's world-class grappling and Allen's aggressive style, Bisping believes fans are in for an exciting, high-level fight. He closed his thoughts by saying that if RDR pulls off the win in dominant fashion, he could easily become the next legitimate challenger for Khamzat and a serious player in the middleweight title picture. Moving on to another news, a quick recap at bantamweight for you. Umar, the only man so far to make a fight with Merab look even remotely competitive, has finally broken his silence on what's next after his upcoming fight with Bautista. He also shared his honest thoughts on the highly anticipated matchup between Merab and Peter Yan. The biggest takeaway from Umar's interview was his mindset. He's not planning to sit around and wait for a title rematch. Instead, he's focused on staying active and taking as many fights as needed to earn another shot at the belt. Umar made it clear that his hunger for competition hasn't faded despite his first career setback. He said he wants to fight again as early as January or February, depending on what the UFC decides. He emphasized that he doesn't want to wait for anyone, showing his determination to keep climbing the ranks. His attitude reflects a new wave of energy among bantamweights who are refusing to sit idle, choosing instead to stay active and keep testing themselves inside the octagon. When breaking down the upcoming Merab versus Yan fight, Umar shared a balanced view. He believes Peter still has a realistic chance of pulling off a win, especially because of his sharp striking and strong defense. Umar mentioned that every fighter has a chance. It just depends on how well Peter can defend against Merab's relentless takedowns. According to Umar, Merab's pace and cardio are unmatched, but Yan's experience and striking precision could make things interesting. It's been a rough stretch for Dagestan fighters in 2025. Umar's undefeated streak is gone. Magomed Ankalaev was dethroned by Pereira, and now all eyes are on Islam as he prepares for his massive fight against JDM. In just a few weeks, Islam will look to bring Dagestan back to the top when he faces one of the most dangerous strikers in the division. His team, including Khabib and other longtime training partners, are confident heading into this fight, believing Islam's grappling and composure will make the difference. But JDM isn't backing down either. He's been vocal about his plan to knock Islam out and cement his place as the welterweight champion. Fans are already buzzing about this matchup, seeing it as a classic clash between elite grappling and knockout power. Islam's camp views this as a chance to restore pride after a series of tough losses for their region, while JDM sees it as an opportunity to shock the world and become the face of the new generation. Umar also praised Merab for his incredible activity level, noting that fighting 4 times in a single year is not easy. He acknowledged Merab's discipline and constant improvement, calling it pretty impressive. He added that Merab might need some rest after this upcoming fight, but that depends on how things unfold in the octagon. Umar's comments show mutual respect between two top bantamweights, even though both are ultimately chasing the same goal, the world title. As Umar continues his journey back toward the top, his mindset remains focused and unwavering. Whether it's Merab, Yan, or another rising contender, he's ready for whoever comes next, proving that true fighters never stop moving forward, no matter the setbacks. Moving on to another news, Alex Pereira has once again sparked excitement among fans after revealing his plans to transition into boxing boxing once his UFC career comes to an end. In a recent interview with ConnectCast, the reigning UFC champion opened up about his ambitions beyond mixed martial arts, making it clear that stepping into the boxing ring has always been part of his long-term vision. "I'm definitely going to box," Pereira said confidently. "I've made it clear that I want to fight boxing. When I got into kickboxing, people didn't believe me. When I came to MMA, they said the same thing. Boxing will be no different. I'm used to people doubting me." His statement reflected the mindset that has defined his career, proving critics wrong and thriving in every combat sport he enters. When asked about a potential opponent for his boxing debut, Pereira made it clear that he's not focused on names or rankings. "I don't care who it is. I just want to go out there and fight," he said. "For me, it's not just about chasing a bigger paycheck. I love a challenge. I want to test myself and be the best." Known for his devastating knockout power and precise striking, Pereira's move to boxing feels like a natural progression for one of the most feared strikers in combat sports. Throughout his career, he's built a reputation for his calm demeanor, technical brilliance, and unmatched power, qualities that could make him a serious threat even in the boxing world. The interview also featured clips showcasing some of Pereira's old amateur boxing highlights, reminding fans that long before dominating kickboxing and MMA, he already possessed the sharp hands and timing that could once again make waves, this time inside the squared circle. Moving on to another news, Ilia just touched down in Georgia and was immediately greeted by a massive crowd of home fans. The atmosphere was electric as he waved to supporters before sitting down with local media for a long-awaited interview. The talk quickly turned into one of the biggest updates we've had so far regarding his upcoming title defense. The interview, which dropped just an hour ago in Georgian, has already been translated, and it's filled with key insights from the reigning champion himself. When asked about the possibility of headlining the first ever Paramount card in January, Ilia didn't hesitate to give fans hope. He said there's a very high chance his next title defense will take place on that event, marking a huge moment for both his career and the promotion's new chapter. But the real headline came when the discussion shifted to potential opponents. Ilia made it clear that he isn't focused on Arman at all. Instead, his sights are firmly locked on Paddy Pimblett, and he told the media exactly that. Ilia's comments instantly caught attention, especially since he didn't mention Justin Gaethje once, despite many insiders suggesting Gaethje might be next in line for a title shot. For Ilia, it's clear this isn't just about rankings or contenders. It's about legacy and business. He's hunting for big money fights, and the matchup with Paddy checks all the boxes. The fight has everything the sport thrives on: star power, a compelling rivalry, and unmatched hype. Ilia knows it, the fans know it, and so does the UFC. While some critics argue that Paddy hasn't yet earned a shot at the belt, Ilia doesn't seem to care. What matters to him is the magnitude of the moment. Facing Paddy, an undefeated fighter in the UFC, against an undefeated champion like Ilia, creates the kind of storyline that sells arenas and breaks records. It's the type of fight that captures both casual and hardcore fans, blending entertainment with elite-level competition. Ilia spoke with confidence and calmness throughout the interview, a reflection of a man fully aware of his power in the sport. He's not chasing validation, he's building moments that define eras. The idea of Ilia versus Paddy is already sending waves through the MMA world. If this matchup materializes on the Paramount debut card, it could easily become one of the most watched fights of the year. As the interview wrapped up, Ilia thanked his Georgian fans for their unwavering support, promising to bring the championship back home once again. His return has reignited pride and excitement across the country, and with talks of this potential blockbuster fight heating up, it's safe to say that El Matador's next move is set to shake the entire MMA landscape. Moving on to another news, Dana White has opened up about what truly drives fight sales in the UFC, giving fans an inside look at how the promotion continues to grow into a global powerhouse. Speaking at the Joy Forum in Saudi Arabia, the UFC president made it clear that success isn't just about putting on great fights, it's about telling great stories. According to Dana, storytelling is the key factor that captivates audiences, connects them emotionally to fighters, and ultimately drives pay-per-view numbers. He explained that what truly makes fans care isn't just a fighter's record or knockout power, but the human story behind the athlete. White pointed to Khabib as the perfect example of how a fighter's background and values can make them a global star. He highlighted Khabib's faith, his deep connection with his late father, and how their journey together from Dagestan to world champion status created an authentic narrative that resonated with millions around the world. Dana also drew comparisons between Khabib and Conor, two fighters who couldn't be more different, yet both became massive draws. Conor's story was very different from Khabib's, White said, but the beauty of it is that they were both authentic. You let them be themselves, tell their stories in their own way, and that's what fans connected to. He emphasized that authenticity is the foundation of everything the UFC sells. Whoever you are and wherever you're from, that's what I'm selling, Dana said. That's what people want to see, because it's real. He went on to explain that authenticity has always been at the heart of combat sports. From legends like Muhammad Ali to modern icons like Khabib and Conor, what draws people in isn't just the fights, but the people behind them, their struggles, beliefs, and passion. Everybody has has a great story, Dana said. What makes sports great is when you can tell these stories well. Every win, every loss, every bit of controversy adds to that narrative. White described how this storytelling creates a ripple effect among fans. You get sucked into the UFC bubble, he said. You follow a fighter's journey, you feel their highs and lows, and then you tell your friends about it. They watch, they get hooked, and that's how it grows. According to Dana, this cycle of emotional investment and word-of-mouth excitement is what has made the UFC such a global phenomenon. He wrapped up by emphasizing that while skills and records matter, the emotional connection built through real, personal stories is what keeps fans coming back. It's all about authenticity, 100%, Dana said firmly. That's what keeps people watching. That's what sells fights.